So, yeah, thank you so much for being here, everyone. I see some familiar names and faces. And if this is our first time together, welcome. I'm so glad you're here. These sessions are meant to be for any experience level of meditation practice. So, if this is your first time practicing, welcome. If you're a seasoned meditator, welcome. If you're someone who's longing to have more regularity in their practice or be reinvigorated or inspired by being introduced to some new practices, I welcome you as well. Because this is the first session in this series, I'll talk a little bit more than usual to provide an introduction to what we do here and how we do it. This is a space to take care of yourself. So I hope that you can come with an intention, an invitation to rest your mind, to feel okay or good enough in your body, and to just experience yourself as you are in space and time in this moment. Um, I encourage you to choose positions in which you're comfortable. Typically, I meditate in a seated position. That's how you'll see me in this series, and you're welcome to do so. That said, if your body is needing to recline or even stand up to feel the soles of your feet really rooted in the earth, I welcome you to do that. You have options. If you're in pain at any point during the practice, these will be short practices, probably 15 minutes or so. So if you do need to switch a position, even in that 15 minutes, go ahead and do so. If there's a pain, like a physical pain that's distracting you, in the types of meditations I'm guiding, it's best to prioritize and center your physical comfort so that you can be with the practice itself. There are other meditation traditions and practices where, uh, we're asked to kind of let the pain be there and just take our mind off of it, but this isn't what we're doing in this series. So yeah, invitation to be comfortable. Another note on comfort and sense of safety, even psychological safety. I typically meditate with my eyes closed. That's how I'm comfortable. I can kind of tune into myself. You're welcome to close your eyes or keep them open if that is just too overwhelming or doesn't feel good for you. If you do keep them open, go ahead and rest your gaze on a spot kind of in front of and maybe below you. Eyelids can be about like halfway open, just to facilitate a sense of going inward, even if that sense of sight is still there. Sometimes I think about resting them on a spot like maybe 3 or 4 feet in front of me on the floor. That's typically helpful. And finally, I see myself as kind of guiding us through this practice. And we're not going to be going to spaces, hopefully, that feel like very deep or triggering. That said, if at any moment you feel like you want to kind of pull back from where we're going, especially if it's a visualization or something like this, go ahead and pull back. That might feel like just sensing where your body is in space or noticing where the contact points of your body are on the surface supporting you. It might mean slightly opening your eyes if they're closed. So full permission to take care of yourself in this space, however you need to. And I think that's it in terms of a general introduction to meditation practice. I'll speak for just 2 more minutes, 2 or 3 more minutes, and then we'll start our practice. Today, I'm thinking about where probably most of you are, somewhere in the Reading area or in New England, where perhaps there's a snowstorm happening. And I love snowstorms, especially going outside in them, because there's like this vacuum effect with sound. It's almost like the snow is just like sucking the sound out of the space. And it literally does that. Snow can absorb sound, but I'm thinking about that today and how that's my favorite part of a snowstorm. And that's also one of my favorite parts of meditation practice. That ability to just kind of go inward and find this inner silence and stillness that can feel so nurturing and nourishing and even sacred to some of us. So that's what's inspiring the practice today. This is a mindfulness practice, but I always like to infuse mindfulness with the quality of care and like a caring sort of presence, which I'll invite you into today during the practice. And it's a space to see if you can kind of savor and enjoy the pauses in between. So those moments of stillness, specifically between the inhale and exhale and the exhale and inhale, that we don't typically pay attention to, but that are nonetheless there. And to see what happens when you're able to kind of rest in that space of pause, in that space of inner stillness and silence. So this is our practice for today. Be gentle with yourself. You did the hardest thing, which can feel like just showing up and committing to a practice if that felt challenging for you today. And here we are. So we'll go ahead and start. We'll start and end the practice with a bell and allow that sound to be your invitation to get settled and to just find your meditative posture for today. So go ahead and let that sound of the bell and the silence that follows welcome you into a space of presence, a space of being in touch with this moment and yourself in this moment just as you are. Allowing the eyelids to close if that feels comfortable for you. Otherwise, letting a soft gaze just rest on nothing too specific somewhere in front of you. Noticing the sensation of your physical body, where the earth rises up to meet you to offer support. Perhaps you feel it in the soles of your feet or the sides of your ankles if you're seated cross-legged, the backs of your legs, your sits bones, perhaps the support of a chair, or couch, or wall at your back. Noticing the temperature of the room around you, maybe a coolness where your skin meets the air directly, and a warmth where clothing or a blanket rests on your skin, offering some comfort, some coziness. And there's no need to shift anything or perform or create an experience that isn't there. This is an invitation to just soften into your body, your breathing body in this moment. What does it feel like to let go of the need for something to happen, to create something, and just be spacious with what is? From here, go ahead and let your attention rest on the rise and fall of your breath. Sensing the whole of your breathing body. How your breath breathes itself without having to consciously think about it, but just allowing your breath to be a sort of anchor point for your attention. So tracking each inhale and each exhale. Ideally, breathing in and out through the nose if everything is feeling clear today. Otherwise, the mouth is okay. You might notice the sensation of your breathing. So, for example, a coolness as air enters the nostrils on the inhale, and more of a warmth as the air exits on the exhale. Continuing to allow your attention to rest on the rise and fall of your breathing. If you came to this practice today with some kind of mental or emotional heaviness, lots of thoughts, go ahead and let those two just rest on the rise and fall of your breath. Almost like a boat, just gently rising and then descending on the waves of the ocean. Sometimes when we rest our attention somewhere or focus on something, it can cause bodies to contract a bit, like the shoulders rounding forward or the head kind of leaning forward, a furrow in the brow. So just taking a moment to notice if that's been your experience, since kind of focusing your attention on your breath. And if so, what would it be like to soften, to allow some spaciousness in your body? While still letting the same sort of potency of attention rest on each inhale and exhale. If your attention wanders, typically this happens with a thought. Just notice when that happens. Notice, you can even label like, aha, I'm thinking or thought. And then noticing you have a choice in that awareness to just gently, kindly bring your attention back to the rise and fall of your breath. The noticing itself is evidence of a mind that is luminous and radiant, awake and aware. It is a good sign, nothing to be critical about. It doesn't mean you're doing it wrong. It's simply that luminosity of your mind, that awareness, and then the choice to just bring your attention home to the breath. If there's any sense of urgency or a subtle sense of needing to get somewhere, like to get to the end or to keep up a pace, and just noticing that as well. Maybe reassuring yourself that This is just a practice space for being present with yourself. In this moment, there's nowhere to go. There's nothing to do. There's no one to become. What would it feel like to remove that burden of expectation from your mind and just be here with your breath, here in your breathing body? If this feels like plenty for you to work with, to be with in this moment, just continue as you are. You also have the option to continue with the prompts that I'm about to say, which is more investigating that gentle pause, that in between the breaths. If you'd like to continue with that step, I'll invite you to just go ahead and notice that space of transition, that subtle space of stillness at the top of the inhale. And then after you exhale, noticing as well at the bottom of the exhale, that small window of stillness, of pause. And there's no need to hold your breath or extend that pause at this moment, but just noticing this micro moment of stillness, of silence, of deep rest in the transition between inhale and exhale, between exhale and inhale. You might notice as you kind of rest your attention there, the pauses naturally extend themselves. This can happen sometimes. It doesn't have to. But if that's happening, just being aware of it, particularly at the bottom of the exhale. What does it feel like to notice the transition, to allow for the pause, the stillness, the silence? What might it feel like to savor that space, to savor that precious moment? Sometimes it can be supportive to notice, again, especially at the bottom of that exhale, like notice your awareness and attention kind of resting deeper into the body. Sometimes when we focus on our breath, it can feel very much from the chest upward, but what might it feel like to sense that pause that stillness in the whole of your body. And when I say stillness, it can feel like a very real physical stillness, but I more so mean a sense of stillness inside, like a sense of sacred stillness, stillness of your mind, regardless of how the body is or what the body's doing. We'll take just a few more moments here. So enjoying this last minute or so, wherever your practice has taken you. And if you feel like you've wandered kind of far away, an invitation to just lovingly gather your attention back up and bring it home to rest at your center, to rest on your breath. We'll prepare to bring our practice to a close now, to seal it. So go ahead and kind of open up your attention, your awareness, once again to the whole of your body, softening your focus on the breath and opening your scope of awareness to kind of the outline of your physical body and the space you're in, temperature of the air around you, contact points between your body and the surface that's supporting you. You might choose to seal your practice with a word or gesture that feels good, sometimes just placing a hand at heart center, or a single word, thank you, or I'm here, presence, that kind of embodies what this practice has been to you. Maybe words of affirmation like, you did it, you showed up. And then at the sound of the bell, coming back to our shared space. So taking your time to come back. We still have a few minutes, so if you need those to transition, go ahead and be gentle with yourself, taking your time. Maybe stretching. We don't often attend to transition. Our minds tend to focus on like the thing. It's like this thing and then this thing and then this thing, and then the transition is just like this time to get between things. But I think placing awareness in transition and honoring that too in the practice, but also in life, can be really transformative, like offering a permission to rest in the transition, to rest in that in between.